We are Natalia and Tiago, and we are going to read and interpret the poem Still I Rise by Maya Angelou.
Still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wheels pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken, bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my tights? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise, up from a past that's rooted in pain. I rise, I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, wheeling and swilling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise, into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
Maya Angelou was an American artist. She was born in April 4th, 1928. She spent her childhood in California, Arkansas, and Missouri, and lived with her grandmother, Annie Henderson, for most of her childhood. When she was 8, she was raped by her mother's boyfriend. This event left Maya without speaking for years. She finally overcame the trauma with the help of a neighbor and her love for literature. Angelou had a long and varied career. She was a poet, writer, composer, civil rights activist, and historian. She was also an actress, playwright, dancer, and singer. She also became the first black woman to become a screenwriter and director in Hollywood. In the 60s, she became friends with Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and James Baldwin. For many years, she fought for the civil rights movement. Also in the 60s, she traveled to Africa to work as a journalist and a teacher, supporting many African independence movements. She received for 3 times the Grammy for Best Spoken Word Album. At the end of her career, she was a history teacher at a university in North Carolina. Her struggles and work were so relevant to the United States history that in 2010, Maya Angelou received the highest American civil distinction, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Maya Angelou died on May 28, 2014, at the age of 86. In 1970, she published her acclaimed first book, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, and it was nominated for the Pulitzer Prize of Poetry. After the success of her first book, Angelou published a long sequence of autobiographical works, such as Gather Together in My Name and The Heart of a Woman, among others.
The poem talks a lot about the author, dealing with racism and sexism, but also about freedom and emancipation. It is very related to Maya Angelou's life. She was an activist searching freedom and emancipation of women and black people. The meaning of what she is saying is that she suffered a lot, but at the same time, this was what gave her strength to rise. She uses metaphors and symbols to show her strength. There are many symbols and metaphors, like the rising sun and moon. She uses the sun and the moon as a metaphor to show that she will rise with the power of an rising sun and moon, important elements of nature. So she uses it to show that she may be broken, but she will still rise. Oil wells, gold mines, and diamonds are all used to show economic power. Oil wells is one of the most important economic activities, so she uses as a metaphor to show her power. Gold mines and diamonds represent money, something really important for everyone's life.
The poem is also related to the historical context which it was written. It was the era of the fight for the civil rights in the United States of America, and Angelo was part of the movement. The poem presents many of Angelo's ideas in a lyrical form. It wouldn't be daring to say that the persona is the author. Now, looking for the poem's formal aspects, we can affirm that there are 9 stanzas and 43 verses. According to Ezra Pound's famous theory, Still I Rise is a logopoeia. It means that this poem is focused on the ideas that the words transmit. The musicality and the image created by the author are also very important, but the ideas of the words are the most relevant. Rhyme is another very important element for the poem because it gives rhythm. However, there isn't a fixed rhyme scheme. There's also many questions during the verses, mostly in the beginning of the stanzas, that makes the reader think about what she's saying. We can also notice a more obvious resource in the poem, the repetition of the expression I rise, to mark the resistance of the persona author in face of prejudice and oppression.
The image that is created of the persona is someone that makes the affirmations that are shown in the poem, someone who suffers from racism and had her ancestors enslaved, and that today carries the dream and the hope of her race. We can associate her behavior with strength, endurance, and perseverance. 2 passages that show this more clearly are: I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, wheeling and swilling I bear in the tide. And bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. The poem also talks specifically about the African American woman's condition, more explicitly, when she asks the interviewer if her sexuality upsets him. The poem isn't only referring to her as an African American, but also as an African American woman.
African American women are in the bottom of the social pyramid. They are oppressed from all sides. Maya Angelou talks about the black women conditions, how they are treated with violence by white men, but also by white women and black men.
So, the poem Still I Rise talks about many important things that were beginning to be discussed when Maya Angelou wrote the poem, like racism, feminism, freedom, and emancipation. The poem explicitly exposes a persona who faces prejudice without ever letting itself be defeated. In an implicit way, Angelou is talking about the civil rights movement. But these themes are also something that we are still discussing and talking about, so it can also represent the society today.
Still I rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my happiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my ties? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.